House of Representatives directs halt of further demarcation of boundaries between Nigeria and Cameroon to prevent loss of Nigerian territory. House vows to ensure government funds are remitted into Treasury single account of the central bank. And House refutes allegation of 100 million naira palliatives. The House of Representatives is still on recess, but only just so as activities continue outside of the Green Chamber. It's always a pleasure to welcome you to You and Your Reps on the NTA. I am Victor, so thank you for joining us. The House of Representatives has asked the National Boundary Commission to halt further demarcation of boundaries between Nigeria and Cameroon to prevent loss of Nigerian territory. At the hearing of the House Ad Hoc Committee on International Boundary Disputes between Nigeria and Cameroon, concerned officials expressed concern over conflicting interpretations of the International Court of Justice's ruling on the matter, with potential loss of a significant landmass of Nigerian territory in Adamawa and Cross River states.
What the court ruled is that go and use these documents to re-establish the boundary as it has always been recognized. Nigeria and Cameroon differed. They differed in the interpretation of the judgment, as a result of which we have 3 areas we designate as disagreement areas.
Let us go on a fact-finding mission, and then we will intervene. Because whatever you're trying to do, the communities have a right, and their rights must be considered. So I rule that you put the demarcation exercise on hold pending the resolution of all the disputed territories.
Elsewhere, the House of Representatives has vowed to ensure that all remittances meant for government are paid to the Treasury single account in the Central Bank of Nigeria. This was expressed during an investigative hearing by an ad hoc committee on identification and recovery of public funds in financial institutions and government agencies.
8 commercial banks appeared before the committee to respond to allegations of non-remittance to the Treasury single account from the September 2015 deadline. The committee accused some banks of defaulting to others, as most of them had discrepancies in their submissions.
The bank defaulted in days on TSA transfer with cumulative amount totaling 564,583,837.98. Was the bank penalized for the default in transfer to TSA? If yes, how much?
A kind permission, I'll walk through our record and check this listed MDS and make sure that we provide the statements as quickly as possible, sir.
A mild drama took place during the hearing as the chairman of the committee ordered for the detention of one representative of one of the banks for his managing director's failure to appear before the committee.
Clerk, stand there. Hand this man over to the sergeant at arms for detention pending the time the MD or the ED will arrive. Madam, you can go and tell your bank what you saw.
Members expressed displeasure with the responses received from the representatives of the banks, asking them to reappear before the committee this Thursday.
And the House of Representatives has described as baseless and untrue a statement credited to the National Assistant General Secretary of the Nigeria Labour Congress, Christopher Onyeka, alleging that National Assembly members were given 100 million naira as palliatives. Reacting to the purported allegation in a statement, Chairman House Committee on Media and Public Affairs, Akin Rotimi Jr., clarified that at no time did members of the House of Representatives receive any money from the executive arm as palliatives. He described the allegation as malicious, irresponsible, and in bad faith, saying it is another attempt at inciting the public against the National Assembly. The House spokesman stressed that the 10th Assembly has so far demonstrated commitment to the welfare of Nigerian workers and remains committed to advancing the well-being of all Nigerians. The House of Representatives has waded into the recurring challenge of farmers-herders clashes with a warning that the menace could take a toll on food and national security if not addressed. Representative Inu Agarba, representing Yamaltu Deba Federal Constituency of Gombe State, moved the motion to investigate the clashes at plenary and is a member of the ad hoc committee set up by the House to investigate the matter.
So bad to the extent that we are losing lives and properties every year around harvest period when farmers are crossing back to the southern part of this country and farmers are about to harvest their farms. That one, it's always started every year, and even last year it has happened. In Yamatudeba, we lost many lives and properties worth millions, some injured, and it created a lot of insecurity and put problems, because if people do not go to the farm, then their livelihood will be affected, and if cattle are not being allowed to graze, another problem occurred. So that's why I think that is a very serious issue that needs national attention so that this can be, stopped, and a solution mechanism should be in place. I believe we've taken a bold step forward in ensuring that a very workable solution is prepared, looking at the component of the membership and the leadership of this committee formed by the Honorable House. And you can see in the public hearing the commitment, the zeal, and the participation by some of the stakeholders from the national offices, from the ministries, federal ministries, and the security and the Office of the National Security Advisor have, partake in the discussions with their submissions. And we did not stop at that. The committee will move forward to go to Yamal Tudeba, that is my constituency, where I use as a model to present the motion before the Honorable House. We'll go there, we'll bring all on board with the view to collect views, solutions, and observations by the stakeholders from both the farmers and the herders, clergymen, traditional rulers, and all that are involved, including the committee set up by the state government, by His Excellency, the Governor of Gombe State, Alhaji Muhammad Onuoha. He set up a state-owned committee on the same issue, because it's an issue that borders on so many things, and it is expanding, and looking at the strategic importance of the area in question. In the same area we are talking about, we have an international setting of Muhammadu Buhari Industrial Park. We have a dam. We have a Genco there, electric generation company. We have other programs. And this place is economically viable to the socio-economic development of not only Gombe State or that constituency, but Nigeria as a whole. Looking at the strategic location of Gombe State and the strategic importance of this area we are talking about in Yamal Tudeba, we have to do something as quick as possible so that we improve the living standard of the people, with the view to create more revenue for the state and the federal government, create business opportunities, expand on the foreign exchange of Nigeria, because that Muhammadu Buhari Industrial Park have the capacity of becoming one of the most effective industrial park in Nigeria or in Africa in that context, because Northeast geopolitical zone is bordering with a consumer countries, Cameroon, Niger, and Chad, with their domestic consumption is majorly from Nigeria. And they are coming through the Northeast geopolitical zone. And Gombe State is in the center of Northeast geopolitical zone, bordering with 5 states: Bauchi, Taraba, Adamawa, Borno, and Yobe.
Now, public hearing is a commonly used phrase in Nigeria's legislative practice. But what exactly does it mean, and how significant is it in context? We asked former chair of the House Committee on Rules and Business, Abubakar Flata, who now chairs the Committee on University Education.
Whenever a motion or a bill is read, there are 3 stages in a bill. When a bill is presented to the House, it is read the first time. Then the Rules and Business will schedule the second reading of the bill. After a debate on the subject matter of the bill, it will now be referred to a relevant standing committee. The relevant committee will now schedule what is called public hearing. A notice will be issued through the media that the committee on so-so and so-so will be conducting public hearing on a bill seeking to do with A, B, C. Therefore, members of the public are invited to contribute towards the enactment of that bill. So you see, a lot of submission will come. Memoranda will come from members of the public, and they will be given opportunity to speak at the public hearing for and against. Some members of the public will come and support the bill. Some members of the public will be there purposely to speak against the bill. The committee will now collect the opinion of the public and then use it to fine-tune that particular bill and then report to the House in plenary.
And now that fuel subsidy is gone, what do the people expect from government to alleviate the impact on cost of living? We asked a cross-section of Nigerians on the streets of Abuja. Here's what we got.
We believe if government manage it very well, it will be good for us. But there's something government is supposed to do, which El-Rufai did initially. El-Rufai brought a lot of buses during his time in FCT here and put it in the different routes. And it was very helpful to civil servants then. If government can borrow a leaf from there, and fleet buses, these big buses everywhere, with their own subsidized price, I think the masses, not only the civil servants, even the masses will enjoy it.
But I think the government should put some measures in place to help us deal with the effect of fuel subsidy in general. Because the minimum wage is still the same price and the cost of living is very high.
They should start early because they have not started putting a measure to curb the difference in price and rising cost of commodities. So they should hasten up whatever measure they can put because the essence of government is to be able to curb every lapses.
My advice to government is that if they can do something to bring the prices down, that can be affordable for people, because it has really even affected some people. They are not able to go to work.
They should bring down the price for us, the masses, so that we can benefit and then we can run our day-to-day activities.
On You and Your Reps this week, the committee's segment takes a look at science, technology and innovation. Chairman of the committee, Dachung Musa Bagos, speaks on how the committee intends to get the best out of the executive in the sector.
I can tell you that with technology, one of our dreams as a committee is that with technology, you won't even find many people moving around with their CV looking for work in government offices, but rather we will be able to create those enabling environment that these young people will have a lot of startups that can boost what they're doing technologically around. A lot of apps, a lot of that within the comfort of your room. You can be able to do a lot of things. You're earning money. You can be able to create solutions through your startups and be able. So a lot we need to come into place. Like we said, we want to ensure that we bring in appropriate legislation, appropriate appropriation to give an enabling environment for the youth to be able to explore that which is in science and technology that has not yet been tapped by the federal government. Okay.
And away from science, education appears to be a major priority in the current dispensation, especially with the introduction of student loans. This prompted us to engage with Chair of the House Committee on TETFund, Miriam Onuoha, who speaks on TETFund interventions and the committee's oversight functions.
The ETF dealt with both primary, secondary, and all of that, and it was becoming ambiguous. So this is clearly now cut out to deal with the issues: infrastructure, manpower development, scholarships, and all of those of tertiary institutions. And like you said, the amount today might look huge, but with the foreign exchange, you can also see, and the rise in cost of constructions, contractors might not be able to meet up with the going rates for delivering similar projects that were done 10 years backwards. So you can see that it might be an increase in the amount, but then in terms of value, real-time value, it is reduced. So there has to be a move to increase or improve the drive for collection. Also, not just the drive, so that it's telling on the stakeholder or the taxpayer to create an enabling environment so that everyone thrives and prospers within the circuit, such that even the taxpayer has the enabling government backing to do their businesses and do it well. If I'm running a thriving business and it's doing well, I am comfortable to pay my tax. But I would not be a good citizen if I underdeclare my profit, because a lot of companies are evading taxes, avoiding it completely, or not paying properly. So agencies of government also charged with the responsibilities of collection have to also be on their toes and ensure that accurate assessment is done to ensure that there is no loopholes, there are no leakages. Where we need to optimize revenue collection, utilization should also be monitored to ensure that there is value for money. Our taxpayers' money ought to be duly accounted for, and the monies so appropriated for projects as intended ought to be delivered with precision and up to standard. And that's why my committee is embarking on a monitoring of the collection and utilization of the education tax. It's a process that, as a committee, we have already put templates in motion to ensure that the agencies charged with the responsibility of collecting the taxes are mandated to be on their toes. And we are even doing a backward review to ensure that companies have been up to date, that companies had not evaded or had not underdeclared. If our findings show otherwise, we'll go after them and ensure that we make those recoveries and send back and redirect them to make the payments, so that TETFund can have enough money to fund the ever-growing tertiary institution need. This is the time that I think the universities need to we need to look at their request for increase in tuition. It mustn't be too exorbitant. If it's unaffordable, there is now an option for student loan support, which the government will support. So we can't, because we want to run a system that is flat, and then we will not give it the necessary ingredients to make our students who have graduated to become employable or to compete with their peers. Part of what will be the mandate of this committee will be oversight. Like you are aware, the National Assembly has the power over public funds. We have the powers to ratify treaties. We have the powers to alter the constitution. We have the powers to oversight, to ensure that there is compliance with the dictates of this bill, of the act, and to also ensure that there is value for money, to ensure that taxpayers' money do not go astray. So we follow the money and ensure that we find the value. Some of these schools, contracts have been awarded for the direct disbursement, zonal intervention, special impact, high impact projects in tertiary institutions in compliance with the TETFund Act, physical infrastructure, research and documentation, training and staff development, and all of those, anything else within the interest of the schools. They make requisitions to TETFund. Money is sent to them as directed by the Act, 2:1:1, universities, colleges of education, and our polytechnics in that order. Whether these monies are being utilized as spelled out is what the committee will embark on to ensure that there is justification for the money, which you will say is huge, but by the time you see how the breakdown is done, it might not really be as huge. But the issue is not how big or how small, but how well you have utilized the money which is sent to you. I want to believe that the administrators of these tertiary institutions are noble and highly skilled, cerebral minds, technocrats in their own way, are professionals, and would have done their best. But my job would be to ensure that if the best is good enough, and find out also where there are challenges. Committee would go around once they are fully constituted upon resumption. In November, we'll embark on a nationwide investigation or movement or oversight to check and see that there are no dilapidated classrooms. But don't forget that the needs of every school are so many, just like human needs are too much, too numerous. So you list them in order of priority, like in economics, you'll be told that you make you rate your needs, and then you begin to pick them in order of priority.
All eyes on tertiary education and the role of TETFund. We'll see you again next week when we return with another package of you and your reps. Keep a date with us. I am Victor Azu.